future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Thank you, and welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. I have two Type A trailblazers on today. We're going to start off the show with film director Lisa France, and then later in the show, Hollywood up-and-coming star and screenwriter, director, Britt Logan. So first up, please give a warm welcome to the incomparable director, Lisa France. Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
How are
Catherine.
you?
Hi, thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, well, you are working on some really cool stuff. Oh my gosh, as a fellow documentary filmmaker, I know how much blood, sweat, and tears go into making documentaries, and you have an amazing one coming out that you just submitted to some pretty high-profile film festivals.
Yep.
I know you're hoping to get in Tribeca, Berlin, South by Southwest, and these really big festivals that are so notable. And I know you've had great success in the past with award-winning films. So I'm so looking forward to seeing this. And we're going to talk about it today because it's such an unusual topic. It's really a one-of-a-kind, first-time type of documentary, so I'm excited to talk about it. But first, I want to talk about your background and your journey to becoming a filmmaker, because I know so many people that listen are thinking that maybe that's something they would like to do.
They should not.
We both tell you don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it unless you absolutely must.
Yeah, it is like as many of my artist friends say, it's a calling.
Yeah.
So it's like a gift, and so if you feel that calling, you kind of have to do it because you get that burning desire.
You can't stop
Yeah.
it. I mean, I just I had never seen it before, but I just watched Eddie the Eagle with my girlfriend.
Oh, I love that movie.
And
that's a must see.
I thought, if that's you,
Yeah.
like if that's your experience,
Yeah.
which if you don't know what the movie's about, it's basically about a guy who was obsessed with being an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
And that's all he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And
And the odds were like,
no, there's no odd. The guy was a no. He was a no.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not happening, home slice.
Yeah.
Like he started his life with like wearing a big leg brace. Like he just, it was just, And
he did the impossible,
yeah,
really.
he did the impossible. And it's such an inspiring story. And, he broke records for Britain. And, and I'm attracted to those types of stories.
Yeah, especially because you're so athletic. Like that's your whole background.
That was my background. I was very similar to that kid.
Yeah.
I was a little crazy like he was.
Yeah. So you were like a really
A
highly
basketball
regarded
player. I played basketball in high school, college, professionally, and then I became a triathlete. And, I kind of thought my career was going to head in that direction of teaching and sports and all that. And it was actually kind of by pure accident that I stepped into the film world.
Right. And your journey there started with acting, right?
Yeah, I started as an actress and, moved. I did what a lot of people do is like, and I was older. I was already, I'm not going to say how much older, but I was older.
Yeah.
And I thought, crap, I better make a film.
Right.
Myself.
Right.
So I wrote, directed, and starred in a short film.
Yeah.
And then...
But even before that,
I did stunts, and I was a PA, and I was a background actor and a stand-in. And
I was asking you how you started becoming an actor. You were actually like working at this camp out in the woods. And I mean, it's, you were like the adventurer. And,
I was just
you were having fun, right?
I was
bartending. And
just doing all this kinds of... and I was kind of heading in the career of a nonprofit retreat center.
Right.
And my boss and I were just happened to be walking by they were holding auditions at this local theater, and the director's assistant chased me out the door. We were watching, and they asked me to come and audition. I thought that was very weird.
Yeah, talk about the universe tapping you on the shoulder,
yeah, it's
huh?
like, what? And then my boss is the one that actually pressed me and said, you should really pursue this. And I took an acting class for fun my senior year of college, and yes, that something happened there also where I should have probably, but I was going to play professional basketball. But my teacher did say, you're talented.
talent there,
I'm
yeah.
Like, I don't want to be an actor. Ew, gross. No. You have to worry about my hair and my face and my teeth and all that stuff. And ooh, what do I weigh? And and it just wasn't. And I'd still do it now and again. In fact, I acted recently in my.
Not just acted up.
I do that all.
You do that too,
I do that
I know.
every time. But my girlfriend is a director, and she made a movie called Killer Coach, and I played a teacher. Just it's on Lifetime
You
right
should
now.
mention your partners,
Yeah.
Lee Friedlander, the
yeah.
awesome director.
She's awesome.
And movies for Lifetime and Hallmark, and
She actually has been very inspirational to me as well. But yeah, so that's how it all started. I walked by a set in New York. I saw Meet Joe Black, and I was like, I fell in love.
yeah,
And that's when I sort of became Eddie the Eagle.
right.
I became crazy.
Right.
Like psycho.
Right.
Like I sat
You
on.
knew that's what you wanted to do.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what I was looking at. I just was like, how do I get involved? I want to do this forever.
Right.
And that was the beginning.
Now, when you started on this path, your parents, how did they feel about, going? Yeah, because.
You what?
Yeah, because you'd gone to grad school and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
I
They
have
were
a
like,
master's degree.
yeah,
in health
you're going to be
science
an actor. Yeah,
and
yeah.
be an act- what?
Yeah.
And and again,
And
I was
then
a
even a filmmaker.
Yeah, they're like my dad's
They're
like-
like, no, that's worse. No.
I remember my dad saying, "You're not a filmmaker." And I remember
We gotta love our parents, right?
I remember when I brought home a movie that I had executive produced, and I needed to raise a little more money for it. And I showed it to my dad, and he walked across his backyard to a friend and said, "My daughter needs money for this movie."
Oh, my God, that's such a cool
And my mother
story.
actually gave me money to make my first short. So
I have goosebumps. So
Yeah.
now they saw
They're
your
very
work,
supportive.
and then they were like, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
you have
they're-
talent."
They were really now. You still can't believe them really because
They are your
they are
parents.
your parents. Of course, they're like, "You're awesome."
The bar is low, honey.
The bar is very low.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, you kind of do.
I'm sure it was amazing, and that's
wa-
why you got behind you.
I think
Yeah.
all of us would like to make our parents happy on some
Yeah.
level, but that was gratifying, of course. And then,
That's really cool.
and then when I made my first feature, And Be Real, that was it. Like they were like, "Holy!" I didn't like the
Yeah.
movie at all, but everybody else liked it a lot. And
Yeah. Well, that was really unique. I want you to explain what that was, because that was your first film. And no, it's really unique. I mean,
I didn't even know what I was doing. I was in the film business for about a minute.
yeah, but it was about this rapper girl, and you did
Yeah.
it to a narrative of Anne Frank.
Yes. So
How clever is that?
It was great. Antonio
Yeah.
Messia, who's an amazing writer, and he has a lot of films, and he's a director as well. He did a great job with this story. This story was amazing about a young girl who wants to be a rapper who's inspired by the Diary of Anne Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And my producer, Louis Morrow and Jocelyn Herman, they were like, "This should be your first movie." And I said, "What? What do I look like? I'm not a hip hop. I don't know."
Yeah. Oh, how
And
interesting.
but I read the screenplay and I thought, wow, that's an amazing idea to commingle these two worlds and
Yeah.
juxtapose them against one another. And we had to rewrite quite a bit because Louis really wanted to get the Diary of Anne Frank for real, because it was paraphrased and it wasn't the end. She's reading the diary in the movie.
Wow.
So he said, "That's it. I'm calling the Frank Fonz," and he actually ended up getting permission.
Wow.
So that was incredible,
And that ended up in film festivals and got
yeah, it
awards.
won a lot of
Yeah.
2 Spirit Award nominations, and
So then you had that validation that, yes, I'm supposed to be a filmmaker.
sort of, I guess.
Yeah,
So
but I don't mean it was easy after that, because then we talked about it. It was
nothing
still
happened.
hard.
I mean,
it's always
I got
hard.
to make.
Yeah.
I did get when I say I get to make films. I mean, I think any of us who love making films realize it's an extraordinary privilege to get
to tell someone's stories. Yeah,
And-
I feel that way even on this show. I
Yeah.
feel like I feel privileged to tell your story. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel privileged to be here, and
Yeah.
it's a very man. There's nothing like shooting a movie. It's
yeah.
like drugs. I mean, it's just crazy. And when you're doing it, and if I'm divorced from myself. I feel like I'm the most me I ever am because I'm not even there. It's a strange experience, but you're like a hyper realized version of yourself, and it's So anyway, after that, I got to make 2 more films. They did not have quite the same. I did sell them. We sold them, but I didn't. Still scraping and always independent. Never. I'm available.
Yeah.
I'm available. You need a job.
And I know we talked about growing up, you were always a trailblazer.
Yeah.
And so, I think really filmmakers just in essence are trailblazers because it takes a lot to just, pick up and make a movie. And like you said, no one's going to ask you to do it. You kind of have to make it happen. You have to make it happen.
You rarely get the call.
Yeah, nobody calls up and goes, "Would you please?" But tell me about some of the pioneering things, and that kind of is in your family, right?
Yeah, I mean, my, I remember at a very young age. I think I was 14 or 15, and I had moved from Massachusetts to Dublin, Ohio, and we didn't have a cross-country team. But I wanted to run cross-country. And in the past, they had allowed girls to run with the guys and stuff. And I remember asking the coach, Chad Beeler, he's like, well, we have to have 5 people. I said, I can get 5 people. And I formed our first cross-country team. And then,
Women's team.
Women's team, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So they didn't have a girls' team. And so we did that. And as a result, I broke, like a little like Eddie the Eagle, I broke the first school record for them.
Oh my gosh!
Because
I love
just
that.
as no one else having done it before.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's
exactly.
cool.
So you started the team, you get to break the record.
Yeah.
So it actually lasted for a little while, and then and then in college, similar kinds of things. I remember being thrown on. I was on the basketball team, and Molly Perdue, my coach, asked me if I would sit on this committee, which looks at the budgets for women's and men's and sports and recreation for all the Division I sports in our recreation department. And I received the budget, and I looked at it a few times, and I thought, well, this can't be correct. Like, I think I'm missing a page. The vice president's there, the athletic director's there, all the representatives from all the different areas, and everyone, you could have heard a pin drop. And I went, I think I just got in trouble somehow. And everyone's like, and I said, well, I can't really vote for this because this is quite a discrepancy. Because everyone said, no, this is right. I said, no, this is wrong.
And what
the discrepancy was that the men's athletic department, all their sports were getting about 10 to 15 times more money than the women's. And
wow.
I just said, that can't be correct. Like, I know that must be wrong.
Right.
And
in your naivete,
I was 19 years old and an idiot, but yet not that.
No,
I saw inequity.
Smart. Yeah.
So I remember Linda Carpenter and Vivian Acosta. They were professors there. They were incredible. They sort of took me aside and said, "Listen, we're about to get tenure, but not quite yet. Why don't you file the complaint to the Office of Civil Rights?"
Wow.
It took a long time.
Yeah, but you did.
I did it. Yeah, I did.
Good for you.
Yeah, and then they took it over because it was getting a little crazy, and then they went to court, and my coach actually won. I believe it's the first time ever a woman or anyone has won a monetary amount for a Title IX suit.
Wow.
Yeah, and she wrote a book about it.
Oh my gosh.
So
what's
she's
the name
very
of it?
inspiring.
Do you know?
I don't know what the name of it is,
Yeah.
but she was very inspiring to me too. I mean, I've had a lot of really great, inspiring. My dad's very inspiring. He's always been an entrepreneur. My mom is amazing, like incredible, extraordinary woman who I'm so proud of her. I could get emotional talking about my parents.
Yeah.
But my mom just retired, but she worked her whole life. She took care of 2 girls all by herself.
Wow.
And then when we did need help, it was my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my sister, and me, all living together.
Wow.
And it was just a very, you grow up in a world like that. You're like, well, we can do anything, right?
Yeah.
So
Superwomen.
Yeah, and so she worked her butt off her whole life.
Yeah.
She saved and squandered and took care of us, and she's now retired, and I'm so happy for her.
That's awesome.
And my dad still works. He's still working on a something that no one's ever done before kind of a thing,
Right.
which I'm very...
Yeah, you told me he's like that serial entrepreneur,
he
and
really...
you get that from him.
Yeah, but I think a little bit of each of them. My mom is, I've always somehow paid the bills.
Yeah.
And then I have my dad, who's, he's not going to give up until he makes a difference in the world with some thing that no one's ever done before.
That's really cool, though, that he has that ambition. And it sounds like you kind of have the best of both.
I love my parents, and I love I have 2 sisters, and they're amazing, Amy and Allie, and I mean, I just have an awesome family at large. I mean, I really do. They're very supportive. And
You're one of the lucky ones.
My friends, my college, my high school, they're all amazing.
So let's talk about this amazing project that you have on the table, which was, I know you were kind of getting discouraged with the filmmaking thing, and then bam, this fell in your path.
Yeah.
And tell me how this project started.
Well, I was about to go to nursing school.
Yeah.
I was going to quit the business.
Talk about throwing in the towel, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I had tried everything. I had made a sizzle reel for like all women who fix up cars. I'd made a sizzle reel for a gun show. I'd had more close calls in this business, and I said, you know what, screw it, I'm done. And I got into nursing school, and it was kind of exciting at my age to still be able to go do
we're
that.
never too old to switch
No,
careers.
you're never too old, and it was very
But then...
then I got an email from, I'm on the email list and part of the Alliance for Women's Directors. I'm not currently a member. I have to pay my dues.
Okay.
But they're a great organization, and women, really helping each other, other directors, writers, producers. And I had gotten an email, and it said...
That's good to know. If somebody wants to be a director, they should be in the women's...
AWD, Alliance of Women Directors.
Alliance of Women Directors.
You have to have directed a certain amount of stuff to get in. It's, you have to apply.
Right.
But there was an email that went out, and it said, this guy is going to push his wheelchair across the United States of America. He needs a crew. And so I'm like, that's interesting. I want to see that.
Yeah.
And I looked to see if anyone had done it before, and I could not find that anyone had done that before.
Another first. Yeah.
And that's kind of my weakness. And so I remember going, oh, my God, well, let me just meet the guy.
Yeah.
So I went to meet Gabriel Cordell. Also, he's Palestinian Catholic. So his actually
Just to make
it
more
more
interesting. Yeah.
Oh, no, this is interesting.
Yeah.
His real name, his born name is Sahil Agabi. But he became an actor, and so he changed his name to Gabriel Cordell to make it easier for himself. Anywho, I met him in person, and he was a little late for our meeting. And he was very troubled by this, and he's so sweet. He's like, I'm so sorry I'm late. I couldn't find a parking place. And I was sitting outside in front of two handicapped spots, and they were both empty. And I said, why didn't you park there? I mean, I don't know do you have one of those blue, He said, oh yeah, I have one of those, but I'm not handicapped.
Oh, that's cool.
And this guy's a paraplegic.
I like him already.
Yeah, that was kind of it for me. But he has he can't feel anything from his chest all the way down.
Wow, what happened to him?
He was in a car accident. A woman went through a red light and hit him, and he went flying out of his chair and out of his Jeep. He was in a Jeep, an open-top Jeep, and he went flying out and hit a telephone pole.
Oh, my God.
And that was it. And he knew pretty instantaneously that he was going to end up in a chair. But, and he had a slippery slope, he had rough stuff that when you're 20 years old or 22, I forget how old, he was young, very young.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was at the height of his virility and his manhood and an athlete and just... I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't think unless it's happened to you that you can really imagine what that does to you.
Right.
But he went through some really difficult times. He got into some drug abuse and gambling addiction.
Before or after?
After.
After.
I mean, he had dabbled, as you do as a kid with stuff, but
he was in his 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think,
Everyone
does
has
a little
some fun
something.
in there.
Yeah, a little
wink, wink.
Yeah, not me. I never did anything. But yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of, and then he just kind of kept slipping down the slippery slope, and then he decided that he wanted to do something to inspire people, and he said, I want to wheel my chair across the country.
Wow.
No one's ever done it before.
And you didn't know if he actually could or would or...
I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew. I'm like looking at the guy going, well, are you an athlete? He was 43 years old. He's got like chronic arthritis.
Oh my gosh. So he'd already been in the chair for like 20 years.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's like this older regular, he had a smoking habit of like probably 20 years smoker.
Right.
Just recently, 8 months clean from crystal and coke.
When you started the film?
Yeah.
Oh
when I
gosh.
met him, I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
and you think you can push your wheelchair 3,100 miles across the United States?
Yeah. You're like, I want to see this.
I was like, I don't know. And I don't know why I thought he could do it.
And we actually have pictures of you directing it with him.
Yeah. It was
100 days on the road or something,
yeah,
right?
he averaged, should we say? He was trying to average 31 miles a day.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he was trying to average, initially when we set out, he was trying to average, I think, 50 miles a day. But we realized quickly that wasn't going to happen.
You were not doing it, right?
No, I could have done it.
Yeah.
I could have done it. But yeah, so, and anyway,
But not in a wheelchair.
No, I
Yeah.
was on a bike.
Yeah.
For almost the entire time.
Right.
And so that was pretty.
And the name of the film?
Roll With Me.
Roll With Me. So
Yeah.
people could find it at rollwithme.org.
.org. Rollwithme.org and our Facebook page, and we have I think it's just Roll With Me: A Journey Across America.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
Where would you like to ultimately see it? I know you want it in the festivals. Do you have a ideal outlet for it?
At this point, I'm actually
HBO.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would
HBO,
be awesome. Hey, think
Showtime,
big.
Netflix. Hey, anybody? Here's my
Yeah.
phone number.
Yeah.
And also I would love. We always talked about this early on. We want to be able to help people with it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for impact partners and people like that who would like to use the film, and we can together win. Somehow
Yeah.
help the film, somehow help the whoever would like to use it. And we've already had a couple of groups calling us and talking about that, which is the more people that see it, the better. It is very inspiring.
It sounds really inspiring.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
nothing. The part where he pushes his wheelchair, that sounds amazing, but there are other things. He brought his nephew with him, who was 0 days off of crystal and coke and just out of heroin rehab and on probation. He came on the trip.
Oh my gosh. Was it life-changing for him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
All of us. Yeah. Life-changing for everyone.
Everyone involved.
Oh, yeah.
How did it change you to work on this film?
Well, I have the most insane respect for documentary film because I'd only made fiction before, and I'm officially documentarians are my heroes now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah,
That's just it.
It took 4 years of your life, right? I mean,
Yeah, so far.
people don't realize when they watch an hour and a half
Yeah.
documentary and they're like, "Wow," they're blown away. Really, how much? Usually, it's 2 to 4 years or more
Yeah.
that people put into it.
Oh, it's insane. And
yeah.
my editor, Jeff,
That's why it's got to be a real love and passion.
Jeff, my editor, I just want to quickly shout out to him because he is my Pete, Louie, Jeff, Mitsuyo, my core team,
They're your
Sharon.
heroes. Yeah.
Like without Gabe, of course, the guys, Chris Yonke, Chris Cowis, Streeter, Christian Link, these guys, Angel, they
It takes a
actually,
village.
Derek Gibbs, if they wouldn't have come on this trip, then there would be no film. I mean,
Right.
there would be no story. And
Yeah.
if it weren't for them, Jerry Cattell,
Oh, so it's not all done just by the director? Just kidding.
I mean, I could go down. Tom Beers has come aboard, Georgia Fox. I mean, some people, really amazing people, Wayne Scholes. I mean, these people my dad has jumped in, Todd Alice, West Coast Chill, Connecta was one of our sponsors, the YMCA. I mean, they're just, you can't do this without all these people.
Right, yes.
And I could sit here and literally I could take a 45 minutes and just list.
Right.
And I'm sure I forgot somebody very important, but.
So this film will help inspire handicapped people to understand that there are no limits.
How about any people?
And any people, because you must look at that and say, my gosh, if he could do it, certainly I could do more.
Yeah.
And so if that speaks to people, it's, give us the website again.
Rollwithme.org.
So at rollwithme.org, people could
They can
donate.
reach out. Yeah. I don't know if they can still do. They might be able to donate, but
Yeah. At least reach out and
you
find
can
out where
certainly,
you're
yeah,
going
yeah,
and
yeah.
follow you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And on our Facebook page too, we update the Facebook page a lot. So
Right.
yeah, and
Well, I know personally, I can't wait to see the film.
me too with you.
Yeah, right? I love that. Looking forward to it being in
Yeah.
LA
Thank
and
you so much.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And thank you for giving your time and expertise and talent to making the film, because if you didn't, the film wouldn't be made. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
I know it's going to
appreciate-
impact a lot of people.
I hope so. That's
Yeah.
that's the plan.
Keep
That's the
making
plan.
beautiful films.
Thanks.
And we will be right back with Britt Logan.
The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the year of the woman, and we are stronger together. The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women.
And we are back with screenwriter, actress, and director Britt Logan. Hi, Britt. How are you?
Hi, Catherine. Good.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm
Thanks so much
great.
for having me.
Oh, you bet. You bet. You have such an interesting path of how you went from actress to screenwriter to director. I know you love doing all three.
Yes.
So I think people always love to know the journey because there's certainly a lot of people out there here in LA and elsewhere that, would love to be doing those things. They feel that artistic bug.
Yes.
And I know for you, you're one of those people, I feel like you were born with this desire to do these artistic things in the entertainment industry. There was no other option.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I couldn't see you doing banking or secretary or...
I don't think anybody wants me doing their banking. But yeah. No.
I know I
agree.
don't.
It's funny you say that. I actually think sometimes like, what could I do if I did something
you
else?
didn't
And I'm
do-
like,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'd be
Yeah.
a food critic, but then I'm like, but then I'm still writing.
Yeah,
So-
right. So you started, very young, I know, in as a kid you were in plays and whatnot,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
that's how it started, and musicals. And I've actually known you a long time, so I do remember seeing you in a musical in your teenage years.
Oh, my gosh.
And I remember your mom, who you were raised by a awesome single mom.
Yes.
And I always like to say that because a lot of kids are raised by amazing single moms, and I know you always say you wouldn't be where you are today without the support of her.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she's just so supportive. She had mentioned to me that she'd grown up in an era where the parents were like, you have to get a practical job. She went into marketing, but she always wanted to be a writer and documentary filmmaker. And so I think she saw that same talent in you that she didn't get to do. And so she always encouraged you. And I always think that's a
Absolutely.
beautiful thing.
Yes.
To actually let your child do what they're meant to be doing.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't
so-
be anywhere without my mom.
Yeah, she's awesome. So anyway, she said to me, come see my daughter in this high school musical. She's really amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure she is. And then I went to see you, and it was a thing, you did an excerpt from Rent.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Yes.
And totally blew me and everyone in the audience away. And I was like, okay, Leanne, you do have a talented daughter.
thank
It's
you.
not just her thinking that, And I remember there were people there from Broadway that were like, oh, you're destined for Broadway. And I know you kind of thought you'd end up there, so I was surprised you ended up in L.A. And
Yes.
I would just like to know, share that journey that you had. How did you end up in L.A. as opposed to New York?
Well, it's funny you say that. The dream was always for me, like you said, to be on Broadway, to do musical theater. That's my love.
Yeah.
And it still is. It
Yeah,
still
it's
is
still
my
something
love.
you'd like to do.
It still is my love.
Yeah.
But I think that you come to a certain point where you go, like it's like almost like I'm a big believer in signs, and I feel like certain things come across your way. And when I was 16, I flew out to New York to audition for Hairspray, and that producer that you actually mentioned was one of the producers of Hairspray. So I thought like, oh, I have an in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. I thought, okay, here I come, New York. I'm gonna get cast in Hairspray, and so I fly to New York. And meanwhile, I didn't realize it was an open call. Stood in a line around.
And if you were
the
in
block.
Hairspray, who would you want to be? Because it's actually on tonight.
Tonight, I
Yeah,
know. I'm
yeah,
watching it.
yeah.
It's live on Fox, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
or NBC. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Who did you want to be?
I wanted to be Penny.
Penny. That's who I would have pegged you for. Yeah. Okay.
I'm definitely a Penny.
Okay.
And so I stood in line around the block twice. It was wrapped around the block twice for 8 hours in New York.
gosh.
And meanwhile, seeing so many people like rehearsing things, and everyone was like singing in line. It was a real cool New York experience, but just seeing the most talented people being sent away.
Wow.
And then I walked into the room and I opened my mouth to sing, and I was supposed to sing 16 bars. And literally, like, I opened my mouth and said like 2 words, and they're like, "Thank you." And I was so shocked. And I realize now in hindsight, I was too young for the show at the time. I was 16, but I looked like I was like 12.
Because a lot of it's not your talent. It's do you fit whatever they have in mind to cast? And you can't take it personally.
Well, yeah, and especially when you're playing 16 on stage, they're actually looking for you to be in your mid-20s to play like 16 on stage. Yeah. And so I know now that New York casting, they didn't have time to waste on me. I walked in the room, they're like, there's no part for you, just next. And so, but that whole experience was a little jarring for me, and it just made me realize, wow, everybody wants this in such a competitive world, and there's only so many theaters. You know, there's only maybe, 16, 20 theaters, and not every show is going to necessarily have an opportunity for me. So I just realized from a very young age, okay, this is something that I still can do, but I think I need to start somewhere else and then eventually transition back to that once I have made a name for myself. Because nowadays you have people like Ashley Simpson starring on Broadway who would never be, you know, no offense to Ashley Simpson, but like she's not, you know, you look at her and like Idina Menzel and it doesn't even hold. So anyways, I learned that, okay, I'm going to go to LA, and I had gotten an agent out here when I was 16 from this competition I did. And I came out here for pilot season, made all these relationships. So I thought right away, like, okay, I'm going to go to LA. I already have relationships there. So I didn't even let myself apply anywhere else for schools. I knew LA, and I ended up getting into the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I went to a really academic high school. So I knew, you know, in my opinion, I'm like, I can add, I can subtract.
Yeah,
I know about.
But you can't be a banker.
I know that. Well, I mean, I'm good with a calculator. But I just knew that where I wanted to go. Right. So I came to LA, went to a conservatory, and it was such an amazing experience, and I loved it, and I grew so much as an actor. But I learned very early on here in LA, especially, that you can be the most talented actor ever, but doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the part. Right. And, you know, I got to this point where I was auditioning, and I was almost cast, and between me and another girl, always. But I couldn't put, you know, almost on my resume. I couldn't have a, you know, if I could show almost you my almost resume, you'd be like, really impressed. I cannot believe you're sitting here. But my almost resume is not available. But I was getting frustrated because I liked having control of my life. Like I am, I guess, somewhat of a control freak, but not in a like not in a bad way, in a positive way. Right. And so my mom,
like to create your life.
Yeah.
I always say, like, you know, controlled means making things happen.
Yeah. I don't like to be at the mercy of someone else's decision. My future being in someone else's
And that's
hands.
the way it felt in acting.
Totally. Yeah. It did. And so, you know, my mom, again, was like, Brittany, you should write a screenplay. And I'm like, okay, Mom, all right, whatever. And then my mom wrote a screenplay. Right. And I thought, my mom can write a screenplay. I can write a screenplay. Right. And so my mom actually came out to LA to some pitch fest and met this screenwriting teacher named Glenn Benest and said, you know, hey, you should take his class. And at the time, it was summer, and I said, you know what? I've always had an idea for a script. Fine, I'll take the class. And it was more of like a table read sort of thing.
And your mom knew that you had a talent for writing.
Yeah, I was always a good writer in high school, and I did good in English. Yeah. And we had these like high school, these homecoming skits that we did, and I was always the writer, director, producer, choreographer. Right.
You used to put together all these shows.
Yeah, I always wrote shows and stuff like that when I was a kid. So I always did it, but just didn't think of that as my career. Right. So I wrote a screenplay, got really great feedback, and then I ended up getting representation from that one screenplay. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, oh man, I have, you know, they said, what else do you have? And I said, I don't have anything else. Like, I kind of thought, I'm going to write a screenplay, I'm going to star in it, and that's going to be my Rocky.
It's good to be young and naive.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, it was a high school story, and now that screenplay is still not made, and I can't play high school anymore, so it's okay, I'm going to direct it.
But you can direct it, yeah.
I'm going to direct it. And so, you know, I started screenwriting, and I just learned. Again, I was open to the signs that, you know, the universe or the world was presenting to me. And as a writer, doors kept opening. I kept getting these like random opportunities and pitch meetings, and I was able to sit down in the room with some really accomplished producers and directors and go toe to toe with them and have them value my feedback and value my writing and
realize what a gift you have.
Yeah, and then I would go on an audition, and then they'd say, "Excuse me, what's your name? Can you stand there?" And I just wasn't like the way I was being treated as an actress wasn't serving who I was.
Right.
And the way I was being treated as a writer.
With respect and
and just I was enjoying being a part of the creation of something, having an idea and putting it to paper and creating it.
Right.
And initially,
you're a bright woman, so it's nice to be able to actually write and give your input and your ideas and have that respected. And
exactly.
I know you had said to me, there's a gazillion actresses that look like me in Hollywood, but writers, it's a little bit different. In fact, a young, beautiful female writer is actually, a rarity, I think.
Yeah, I was exactly.
Or
and
more rare.
Rare. And unfortunately, it's that case, but I was now enjoying playing in a much smaller swimming pool.
Right.
Going on audition and, again, there's nothing wrong with the career of acting. It's a wonderful profession, but being just kind of limited to, oh, you're a blonde Caucasian.
Yeah.
Versus actually I'm a human being. I'm different than other people. We're all different.
Yeah.
But I just liked playing in a smaller pool. And it's just as competitive and just as hard, but I felt like the doors were opening for me as a writer.
Right.
And then
as it is when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, how things just kind of fall into place more easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
not swimming upstream.
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of went with what the universe was showing me. And also I have a career coach, Barbara Deutsch. She's amazing. And she would always be like, just face the fact that you're a writer. She always called me the reluctant writer. She's like, would you stop, just shut up and just be
the fabulous writer you
yeah,
are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's like, you act like it's some cross to bear. Do you know how many people would wish to be in your position?
No,
and I'm like, yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, okay, I'm a writer. And then I sold my first screenplay this year but I always had the thought of, and I've been told from several people, you're a director. You should really direct.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt like, well, I didn't go to film school. I didn't go to school for directing. So I always felt like, I don't know, who do I think I am that I can just direct, right? And so
But these talents tend to be innate.
Well, it's funny.
Yeah.
Now that I have directed, I realize I did go to my own film school, but it was my life. I was a choreographer for many years. I'm a photographer. I was an actress. I'm a writer. And all of those tools
lent
you
itself
use
to this.
It's basically like when I just directed my first film, it was like literally I felt like I was watching my childhood and watching my life flash before my eyes and seeing all the gifts I got along the way.
Right.
And how it all kind of culminated into me being a director.
Right.
And so I'll rewind for a second of how I got to that point. So I sold this film that I co-wrote with an amazing man named Gabe Torres, and he's a fantastic director and writer.
Can we say the name of it?
Yeah, it's called Status Update.
Status Update.
And we sold it, and we were going through the production process of it, and I thought kind of as one of the writers, like, oh, I would just have say of everything, and I realized, no, you know what? For me to have the full creative control that I envision, I have to direct it. When in film,
right.
TV is a different medium. TV, the writers have a little bit more control.
Mm-hmm.
But in film, and in this situation, I'm very blessed. I'm working with a good friend of mine, so I am still being a part of the creative process. But I was thinking, like, what if I wasn't? What if I was? What if I just sold a screenplay to a director? I mean, technically, according to contracts, I just need 2 tickets to the premiere. I don't need to be on set. I don't need to be part of anything. And that's
when you got the light bulb.
Well, and most of the stuff I write is really personal to me, or it comes from an experience, or I would want to be a part of the collaborative process.
Right.
And so
now you've written several teen movies, right?
Yeah, I have
coming of age.
I have a handful of how many? Like 4 or 5 teen or young adult like coming of age comedies, and then I have a guy ensemble comedy. and then I have a war biopic, which I will not be directing.
Right.
I know my strengths.
But that's a collaboration with your husband,
Yes,
right?
but I co-wrote that one with my husband. That
Right.
was more his baby that he always wanted to write, and
that's Jalen Moore. He's an actor.
Jalen Moore. He is going to be on 6 on History Channel coming January 18th at 10 p.m. Check it out. Shameless plug for him.
Yeah. And he was on the show. He's been on my show.
Oh, yes. Oh, of
Amazing
course,
guy.
of course,
You guys are like the power couple here in Hollywood.
Well,
and I
I'll
love the
take
way
it.
you support each other. It's a beautiful relationship. that
Yeah.
Really cheer each other on. And you're both so talented and so ambitious and so tenacious that you just are like the ideal couple.
Thank
no,
you.
it must help to have someone who's in the industry as your partner, who's cheering you on and collaborating with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you say like
It'd be hard to be with someone who didn't understand what you're doing.
I know. I always think like it's funny. A lot of actors or people in the entertainment industry are so happy to have a partner that isn't in the industry. And on one aspect, I understand that, but on the other end, it's a hard industry, and there's so many ups and downs and so many inconsistencies that it does help to be in a relationship with someone who's going through the same thing. And it's funny how things happen, because now that it's like Jalen's an actor and a producer, and I'm a writer and a director. And so it's kind of great. Like between him and I, we have our own little team.
Yeah.
You know, if I need an actor and someone to produce my stuff, I know who to call. And if he needs something, to write or someone to direct his stuff, you know, he knows who to call. So we very much collaborate on our own projects, and we have a few things in the mix.
It's actually good that you don't do the exact same things, because it's nice that you each bring different.
We're never in
talents to
competition
the
with each
table.
other.
Yeah.
You know, not that like even
Well,
if
you
we
certainly couldn't get the same part.
I mean, some people think I look like an Afghani Spanish, like muscular man, but others don't.
Which is what he is.
Yeah, which is what he is.
A handsome guy.
Yeah, he's handsome. What was I going to say?
That got you all off kilter.
No. So I have this.
How handsome
I
he
have.
is.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just like. But so we have this war biopic that we wrote together. That's
Very
optioned.
timely.
It's very timely.
Yeah.
So so I have all these things, and then.
And things take long here in Hollywood, right? Like you could write a script and it could be a few years before it actually gets produced.
Or
even if it gets
10
bought.
years
Yeah.
just sitting there. I have a few scripts that are just sitting there, like that first screenplay I wrote.
Right.
I thought was going to be made like that,
Right.
and it's still sitting there, but
Right.
it's like now I have this kind of special, like it's almost like it's like in my safe, and I'm the only one who can open the key. Like I'm gonna now direct that.
Right,
And so,
right. And so it was meant to be that way.
Oh, it totally
Yeah.
was meant to be.
Now, another interesting story just happened. You did a fundraiser for your first short that you directed.
Yes.
Called The First Time?
Yeah, The First
Time. Which we know what that means.
Yeah.
And you submitted that to some film festivals and had a lot of great feedback from that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so when you were fundraising, I understand someone made a donation because you had a certain donation level. And can you tell us that story?
Yeah, so this is the whole thing. This is why I really believe, one door, like if you really just listen and are perceptive to what is coming in front of you, like the most amazing gifts can happen. So I sold this film status update, realized, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to want to direct a lot of my features. Well, no one's going to put their name on directing a feature if I haven't directed anything. So maybe I should do a short. So we're in Wilmington, North Carolina. My husband's filming this series, and I actually have the time now to fundraise and do this short film. And so it's really crazy how all of this has happened. So I had a perk on there with Indiegogo and Kickstarter. You have perks. So if they donate $5, they get a T-shirt or whatever you think. So.
Yeah.
So I came up with a perk. I said if you donated a certain amount of money, I would give you script coverage, which means I would read your script and give you solid feedback and notes. And I had one person who took me up on that, and it was this complete stranger named John Clark, and he's a computer software guy in Houston, Texas, and sent me this script, and I didn't really think too much of it, and then I read it, And I was so blown away and so moved by it. And I ended up giving him 17 pages of coverage. And I was basically telling him, like, I think I would do this and I would do this. And I realized how collaborative I wanted to be with it. So we ended up having a phone conversation. And I said, what are you doing with this film? And long story short, I ended up optioning it as a producer. And I ended up co-writing it on spec with the condition that I'm going to direct it. So it's going to be my feature film.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be my feature film directorial debut, and hopefully we begin production next year.
I
That's
love
the goal.
that. And it's all because you did an Indiegogo Kickstarter?
Yep. Indiegogo.
Indiegogo fundraiser for your own first short. And look where it led. It's just amazing.
It's
if you keep
amazing.
taking actions, how
that's the thing.
things fall into place and more doors open. And,
Exactly.
And I love the other day you said to me, we just have to raise $1 million for it, and that's going to be no problem, and then we're going to make it. And I love that you have that vision and that confidence. I was like, wow, $1 million, that's really ambitious.
Well, it's Well, it's funny because all of my other films are like 15, 20 million, 10 million. So I'm finally like, yes, I have $1 million picture. This is going to be easy.
Yeah. It's
so
all perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all perspective.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward to that. I have a table read of it this Sunday that I have a lot of industry coming to that we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully they'll get behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too many people that can act, write, and direct. So you are very special.
Thank
and
you.
I always known that you'd make it here in LA, which is not an easy thing to do, but it's not just talent, it's tenacity. And if anybody has that, Britt, that would be you. You could bottle it and sell it for a lot of money. If only people could buy tenacity.
If only I could.
But I remember saying to your mom, absolutely she's going to make it here. And she said, how do you know that? And I said, because she won't stop until she does. And so, and I know your husband is the same, the two of you. You and Jalen are just, you eat, live, and breathe this. This is what you're meant to do. You're both talented. You both love it. You're wonderful networkers and just awesome people. And you deserve it. That's the other part.
Catherine.
That's the other part.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, keep putting out all that good energy because it's going to continue to pay off.
Thank you.
How could people contact you if they want to follow your career or get behind your films?
I think right now the best way to follow me would be on social media. I have my Instagram handle is at Britt Logan Writes, and that's Writes like WRITES, like I'm a writer, or on Twitter. At B_Logan Writes, and then feel free to. I'm trying to think if I have anything.
You don't want to put your phone number out there, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, check me out on IMDb Pro.
IMDb Pro and see all the
see
things
the
you're
journey.
working on.
Yeah, Britt Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be watching you. We're watching you.
Hey,
we're following you.
Good.
Yeah.
Hopefully there will be things to watch within the near future. And
I have no doubt.
the coolest thing is how this is all kind of coming to a head is all I've ever wanted to do was act, and eventually I'll be directing my own films and I'll be able to act and I'll be able to do everything I want. And the best part is I get to play with all my favorite people. I get to run the show, which is what I like to do.
That's cool. And you'll probably get the Oscar for directing.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, Kat, it'll be the most ironic Oscar ever. And I will so appreciate it.
And it was said here first.
It was said here first. So make sure you see that.
And when you raise that $1 million, and I know you will, I want you to come back and I want to talk about that film when it's done.
Absolutely.
Because I know it's
God.
happening.
I will hold you to that. I will hold you to that. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we will be back this time next week with other great women. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happiness, hugs and happiness, and make it a great week.
The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women. The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the year of the woman, and we are stronger together.